Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome into Morning in the Valley. I'm Jeff Bidwell. Glad you're with us today as we are here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. during the off season, giving you year-round coverage of Missouri Valley Conference men's and women's basketball. Good show coming up today. Belmont men's basketball coach Casey Alexander is going to join us here in about 10 minutes. Talk about the Bruins. Made it to Saturday for the first time in their 3 years in the Missouri Valley Conference at Arch Madness, trying to bust through to Sunday and beyond. We'll talk with Coach Alexander again coming up in about 10 minutes. Wherever you're watching us today, glad you are, either on X, Facebook, YouTube. If you can help a brother out, head on over to YouTube. Just search Morning in the Valley and hit that little subscribe button to really help get this show out there. If you can like it, share it, subscribe to it, and get it to all your Valley-loving friends as this little engine that could continues to grow a little bit more every week. So I appreciate all of your patronage so far. Headlines of the day, and we are going to start in Terre Haute, Indiana. There is part of the transfer portal. There is movement in a lot of different directions, and a lot of what the acquisitions from teams at the mid-major level from the transfer portal many times, and it feels like sort of the majority of the time, is you're getting guys that have good pedigree but have not necessarily lived up to their expectations at this point. And you're getting guys from high major places that come in that, look, I played 6 minutes a game, maybe averaged 2 points a game, but they were a top 100 kid out of high school, a 4-star recruit coming in. You're like, boy, there's something there. It just hasn't been unlocked yet. But every now and again, and it's not a complete Haley's Comet situation, but every now and again, you get guys that were very successful at a lower level that have shown that they can produce in a big way. And now you're going to bring them up to your level and hope that you can get some semblance of what you got from that player, again, at a lower level. And that is what Indiana State has done, as they have gotten a commitment from a young man named Sterling Young, who is from Queens, New York, played at Florida A&M last season, and was the SWAC Player of the Year for Florida A&M, averaged 17 points a game. And to me, the interesting part about him being the SWAC Player of the Year, he only started 9 games last season. He only played 25 and a half minutes a game last year, but in that time was able to average 17 a night, shot 44% from the field, about 35% from three, but a guy that didn't need a whole lot of time to be able to come in and make a big impact there for FAMU. And so now he goes to Indiana State, and Matthew Graves, we have seen Young have good games against good teams. Last year against TCU, he had 16, 15 against SMU, 14 against BYU, 12 against Florida. Some of those nights weren't great shooting nights for him, but he was able to get to the free throw line. He's an 81% free throw shooter at the stripe, and so able to convert somehow there and get on the board and help. But he can go big. Had 37 against Arkansas Pine Bluff. So this is one of those guys, again, from a low level that excelled and is now coming up to the Missouri Valley, and that is Florida A&M's Sterling Young, who is now very officially in the very near future will be a member of the Indiana State Sycamores. UIC is doing some work as well, as Rob Eson back into the portal and has got a signature on the dotted line now from Josiah Hammonds. He is from Chicago originally, 6'2" guard. 2 years ago was at Incarnate Word, averaged about 12 and a half points per game. This past season went to Sam Houston State, averaged 6.7 points per game, was a 38% three-point shooter. Again, somebody that's a local kid, maybe didn't have the year he wanted at Sam Houston, but he's coming home to Chicago to play for Rob Eson there at UIC. We have a visit coming up for the Flames. His name is Khalil Kamara. He is visiting UIC, I believe, later this week. The portal report reporting that he will be at UIC soon. He has visits. I believe he's already visited with Texas San Antonio, and then he will still visit with Albany and Southern. Played at Bethune-Cookman last year, 6'7" kid from the Bronx, and that's how you get the Albany visit worked in there. Averaged about 7.5 points a game last year, 42% from the field, but a 6'7" wing athletic kid that can certainly help there for UIC. And then finally, another commitment, and that is Elijah Crawford. We talk about the kids coming from bigger places, coming back down. This is one of those. Elijah Crawford has committed to UIC, a 6'2" freshman, played at BYU, 4-star kid out of high school, another one of those top hundreds, but only played in 21 games, only played about 5 minutes a night, 1.2 points per game. So there we are, talking about the pedigree, and you're going to bank on that pedigree and bet on it, that he can unlock some stuff. Still very young, just one season out of high school, that Coach Eson will be able to get some goods out of him there in Chicago. Speaking of BYU, sort of the symmetry of the morning here is that former Southern Illinois Saluki Kennard Davis has committed to BYU. Of course, SIU's second leading scorer last season, 16 points, 5 rebounds a game. He was going to be a valuable commodity in the transfer portal this year, and he certainly was, as BYU has picked up Kennard Davis. A bunch of former Murray State racers here in the last 48, 72 hours have made their decisions public on where they will continue their careers. First off, Kyron Lindsay, who started his career at Georgia, went to Texas Tech, came to Murray State for his junior season, averaged about 6.5 games a year. He has committed to UAB, a Murray State connection there. Chris Shoemate, who played for Tevester Anderson and Mick Cronin back in the early 2000s, longtime assistant coach. He's in his second season at UAB. He has helped grease the skids there for Kyron Lindsay to continue his career and finish his career at UAB. Alden Applewhite started his career at Mississippi State for 1 year, went to Portland, came to Murray State for 2 years. He's now off to Georgia Southern to finish his career, about 6 points a game with the Racers last season. And it really, I thought the value for him and that people were going to be excited about, a 38% three-point shooter last year. And so that's what he's hoping to take to Georgia Southern this season. And finally, John McCreer, who had a little bit of a snake-bit career with the Racers, injured coming in, redshirted his freshman year. This past year, only played, I believe, in 5 games. He's finally healthy, only played in 5 games, did not ever score for the Racers this season. He has committed to Division II Lewis in Romeoville, Illinois, just outside Chicago. So John McCreer continuing his basketball journey at Division II Lewis. I did not expect today that we would have 2 Lewis references as quickly as we do, but here we are. Former Bradley guard Dodie Dunson is the new head coach for Lewis women's program. He played at Bradley from 2008 to 2011. He was an assistant coach. He's worked his way through the ranks. Was at UIC in the 22-23 season. Spent the last 2 years as an associate head coach at Evansville, and now he's getting a chance for the first time to be a head coach at Lewis, again, just outside of Chicago. Moving along this morning, speaking of Bradley, as our friend Brian Wardle up there is continuing to get size, and he went and got some big size. 7-footer Kai Yu out of China, played last season at Liberty, and he is now a Bradley Brave. Didn't play a lot, 15 games, 3 minutes a game, a point and a half, but you're going to bet on 7 foot. And when you are able to pair him up, and I don't know that they'll be on the floor at the same time, but certainly quite the Twin Towers there in Peoria. When you've got Met Jonovich at 7'1" as well, that is some tall timber for Brian Wardle to be able to work on there at Bradley. So another 7-footer into the Missouri Valley Conference, and Caillou has landed at Bradley. Speaking of Bradley, another now former friend, Omar Atlason, he has signed now. He is headed off to Miami of Ohio of the Mid-American Conference. And Atlason had a good, decent year, 6, 7 points, I think, a game last season coming off the bench for Bradley, but he has moved on and he is now headed to the MAC to play for Miami of Ohio in Northern Iowa. And we talked about, we talked at the top about Sterling Young and guys coming from lower levels, but the Division I lower level up. We have also seen guys that have been extremely successful at the Division II level, and in this case, the NAIA level, that are going to make their jump. And that is what we have at Northern Iowa, as Tristan Smith, who was an NAIA first team All-American at Concordia. He has an extra year because of the rule. If you've played non-NCAA years, you get an extra year. So he's going to get a 5th year, and he has committed to Ben Jacobson at Northern Iowa, 6'5" wing. Again, a first team All-American, 20.5 points a game, 68.8% from the field. The video that I watched of him, he is just a downhill freight train. And he just puts his head down and is able to get to the rim and finish consistently. And when you shoot almost 69% from the field, that certainly that math checks out. Almost 9 rebounds a game, 1.5 steals, 1.7 blocks. Very active, obviously, on the defensive end. Didn't shoot the three a lot. Only took 23 3-pointers last season, but he made 39% of them. So something that he's going to be able to keep defenses honest, that you're going to have to get out there and watch him. But an NAIA first team All-American, and we talked last week with JW Cox, the men's basketball radio voice there at Northern Iowa, that you and I bringing so many guys back, have a couple of holes to fill left to get out to that 15-man roster, and certainly Tristan Smith has helped fill that void. Evansville, we did get some little breaking news this morning from Evansville in terms of scheduling, as John Rothstein reporting this morning that Evansville has a non-conference game set up. As I pull this up here, December 13th, they will go to Notre Dame, part of the 2025-26 non-conference schedule. So that is, I love when the in-state big schools welcome in the mid-majors. I think that's just great. Keep the money in state, and it's a game that can be exciting for the fan bases and some familiarity. And oftentimes those big schools aren't that interested in bringing in the smaller schools from their state, because in their mind it doesn't look great if they end up getting beat. Well, Evansville's going to have their chance coming up on December the 13th when they head to Notre Dame. Speaking of Evansville, Marlon Barnes Jr., who played at Pittsburgh this past season, he has committed to Evansville. Spent the last 2 years with the Pitt Panthers, redshirted the 23-24 season, and then this past year just never really got much going, as he was played in 8 games, played a total of 13 minutes in those 8 games, only scored 3 points, but he's a 6'6" freshman. And again, another one of those, memory serves, he's from Cleveland, another 4-star kid coming out of high school that really, provides some a good, the old lump of clay there for David Ragland at Evansville, that he can go out there and try and mold him and get some more out of him. But again, you're betting on the pedigree, and that is what Marlon Barnes Jr. is going to hopefully bring to the Aces and head coach David Ragland. We told you about this commitment a week or so ago, and now it is officially signed as Sean Topola, 6'9" forward, who has come from St. Mary of the Woods College, which is just outside Terre Haute, NAIA program. He has signed. He is official now with the Beacons of Valparaiso, 6'9" and a beast. Last season, 14.5 points, 12.5 rebounds per game for St. Mary of the Woods. He's going to have 2 years remaining, we think. He comes in officially listed as a junior for Roger Powell's team. And how much this I don't know that these two dots are necessarily connected to one another, but it certainly doesn't hurt that the head coach at St. Mary of the Woods, Jesse McClung, the last 2 seasons, who coached Sean there at that program the last 2 years. Well, he has left St. Mary of the Woods, and he is now an assistant coach with Roger Powell on the staff there at Valpo. So at least some transition, some familiar faces for Sean Topola as he comes in to help bolster the middle there for head coach Roger Powell. We talk about the old friends and another old friend as Valpo transfer Lexi Castater, part of the, I don't know how much of it had to do with the coaching change there with Mary Evans leaving and Courtney Boyd coming in, but whatever happened there, Lexi Castater went into the transfer portal. She has found a new home, and she is now going to play at USC Upstate. All right, our guest has arrived, and it is time to welcome in the head coach of the Belmont Bruins. It is Casey Alexander. Coach, good morning to you. How's life in Nashville, Tennessee today?
Hey, sorry, I lost you there for a second, but things are well. Glad to be with you. Sorry, it took me a minute.
Oh, that you're all fine. All fine. I was this month, I guess, coming out of your season ends and the transfer portal opens almost immediately, and you guys are just off and running. And I saw your sports information folks put out this little graphic of, hey, whoops, there we go. Let's get rid of let's get not that graphic right there of, hey, our roster set, we're ready to roll. Is that a relief at this point to just be like, you're off the hamster wheel for even a couple of minutes to just be like, okay, we got our guys and we're ready to go?
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of the uncertainty that you walk into when the season is over. You don't know who you're going to lose, how many you're going to lose, who you're going to be able to get and how long that's going to take. So when you finally wrap that part of the process up, it's nice to kind of turn your attention toward being a basketball coach again. So, yeah, it feels good.
What was your priority this spring in the transfer portal?
Yeah, we needed some experience at the guard spot. We felt like we had pretty sufficient depth everywhere else. And so we brought 2 guys in, both of which are kind of good physical. We think, kind of more athletic, blue collar, kind of tough defensive minded guys that'll help us on that end of the floor and give us the balance we're looking for.
In terms of adjusting to the profession right now and how much it's changed in the last couple of years, is it easier or harder maybe as a veteran coach to have to deal with, it used to be a relationship business and you recruit these guys for years and now it's speed dating for a month? And what has your adjustment to this new normal been like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably easier for somebody who's been around a while in a sense that, we haven't had so much change at this extreme, but you've experienced a lot, over the course of your career. And you realize, I guess, or you want to hold on tightly to the fact that, hey, we're going to be okay. In the end, this is all going to work out. We've got some work to do, and we're not going to bury our head and pretend that the problems aren't there or the new circumstances aren't real. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Let's keep our poise. Let's just kind of grind out each day and do the best that we can. I really don't think there's any other way that you can look at it. If you panic, you're creating more problems for yourself, or if you're kind of lethargic and indifferent toward it, then you're definitely creating more problems for yourself. So just do the best you can.
Just finished your 3rd year in the Missouri Valley. What was the biggest adjustment, I guess, looking back, that the Belmont basketball program had to make to try to be successful?
Yeah, if you're just looking at on the floor, I mean, the league is so much more physical than what we were used to. Belmont's always been, I don't think we've been soft by any measure, but we've been an offensive minded. Most people would say a little bit more of a finesse oriented team, and we've kind of survived by being good on that end of the floor. And we had to get bigger, stronger, faster, quickly. In order to be more competitive in the league. And I mean, I think we've held our own, but that's still an adjustment process. I think, you look back 3 years ago when we made the move to the Valley, we already had all of our signees, and all of those signees were for the OVC.
Right.
And not to say that those players weren't good enough, but our adjustment process, was just that. It took a little bit longer because we didn't get a year's preparation. We just said, hey, we're in the Valley, and here's your roster. It's the same one you were going to have. Now go make the most of it. So it's definitely been a learning curve in that regard.
I think fourth, fifth, somewhere in that range here, the first 3 years. Is there any one thing at the top of the board that you can kind of point to, like, man, we got to get better at this to kind of bust through that glass ceiling?
Yeah, I mean, we learn. I think more than anything, it's not so much the Valley, although I do think that's definitely part of it. It's just the times that we've been in. As we all know, rosters have been so old because of COVID, primarily, and with all the changes that have gone on the last 2 or 3 years. I don't think it's very realistic that you're going to win games in this league unless you have some grown men playing on your roster. Our second team, for example, we had 3 really good sophomores on our team, and Jacoby Gillespie, Malik Dia, and Cade Tyson. All 3 guys were all conference players. But to me, that was the least competitive of the 3 teams that we've had. We were just too young. We had 2 seniors on that team and no juniors. And we just didn't have enough horses to really compete, for conference championships. And we're still not there. But this past season, I think we had fewer A-level players on our team is the best way that I would say, all conference kind of guys, even though we did have 2. But we were older and we were a lot more competitive, in when you look at the full 20-game season and especially Arch Madness.
Have you had to change your recruiting philosophy and maybe not be so worried about freshmen and development? And now it's just, let's just go get old guys and stay old that way?
A little bit of both. I mean, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice if we don't stay true to what's made this program so good for so long, and that is quality freshmen that we, that play the way we play, and and kind of the same philosophies we've always had. Now, the retention piece of that has definitely changed. It's not very realistic that we're going to bring guys in and redshirt them and keep them 4 or 5 years. So we definitely have to make an adjustment. But we're not going to be a program that wants to overhaul its roster every offseason.
Right.
It's just not the way that we're built. I don't think that's the best formula for Belmont. But at the same time, yeah, we've got to be realistic, and we know that we're going to have to be in the portal. We know that our agenda needs to be old as often as we can be. And typically that's the way that we're going to go about it.
How important was it just for program growth to get to Saturday in St. Louis this year? I know you want to get to Sunday, you want to get to beyond, but to at least be like, all right, we got out of Friday, we got it Saturday. Is there some silver lining to that?
Yeah. I mean, it's you're always trying to open new doors, and that was definitely the case this year. I mean, what I think will help us the most is just the way that we played in St. Louis. We played extraordinarily well against Illinois State in the quarterfinal game, and really led that from start to finish with a comfortable margin. And then, for the better part of the semifinal game against Drake, we held a lead and went toe to toe. I think Drake was a great team, and they deserved to win the game. But I think we felt like we had arrived to some degree, because felt like from a competitive level, talent standpoint, just playing a 40-minute game against an elite team, we were right there. We just didn't finish. So that's the next goal, obviously.
Talking about some of the guys coming back, Tyler Lemblade, a young man that took 7 3-pointers in his career at TCU and made 1, and then makes 104 for you this year, leads the country in 3-point percentage. Everybody has hopes and dreams, and boy, this kid, if everything breaks right, this kid can be this good. You have to tell me, you had to have been a little surprised by the performance you got from him over the full body of work of the season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's it's a good reminder as a coach that when you get those kids that come in and they've got dreams for themselves and they believe they can do it and everything else, you're always a little skeptical. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I don't trust you or want you to have success, but you may be reaching a little bit too high right here. But Lemblade proved us wrong. It was a great story. The kid has really earned his success. I mean, I've never come close to being around a player who works as hard as he does and is really as self-motivated and kind of driven, far more than any other player that I've ever been around. And so I give him a lot of credit for that. But, his story, even here, he joined us in July. Literally, he visited Belmont on the day before we wrapped up our summer workouts, and so it was awkward timing, for him to join our team. When he showed up in August and we had kind of gathered for the fall semester, it took him a while to earn his place. He was trying so hard to be perfect and show what he could do. It took him a while to settle in. And even in the season, it took him a while to settle in. But once he did, and kind of confidence is an amazing thing. Once he got going, he was extraordinarily good. He made I guess he had the 4-game stretch where he made 33s in 4 games. I think he was like 30 for 46 over a 4-game stretch. That's pretty remarkable.
I would say it is pretty remarkable. I don't know that 48% is on the board again this year for him, but what can he get better at? I mean, what's the push for him this summer of let's improve at this?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard for him to duplicate those 3-point numbers, and he's going to be a lot more of a target, from the start of the season to the end. There was a lot of hands and a lot of grabbing and holding with him to finish the year, but so the things he can get better at are all the other things. Can he be elite, taking advantage of a bad closeout and creating offense for somebody else in simple ways? But can he go shot fake one dribble, kick it to somebody else for a wide open 3 and get us a great shot that way? And then naturally, the defense is actually 50% of the game, so he can always improve on that end of the floor if he wants to make himself and our team better.
Coach, I know I'm giving up 2, but I'm getting you 3 down here every time. So I'm sure I know that conversation doesn't go very far.
I understand the philosophy. Yeah, I understand it. Yeah,
man, you have got such a young, getting older nucleus down low with Drew Charnowski and Sam Orm and Brigham Rogers at just 6'9" across the board, and going to be junior, sophomore. What do you like about that threesome, and what do you see out of them as a unit being able to help you guys out this season?
Yeah, it needs to be the strength of our team. Honestly, I'd like to have a little bit more depth down there, but I think Owen Dillon, who redshirted us for us this year, will also be a piece that plays significant minutes in those roles. But those 3 guys, I think, they were very different, and that's maybe what I like the most about them. Brigham Rogers, to me, can be a defensive player of the year candidate. He's a really tough, strong, competitive kid, that's better on the defensive end than the offensive end right now, but a great teammate, hard worker. You've got Sam Orm, who's extremely skilled, an above average athlete. You see his kind of length, and you assume he's not athletic, but he's got a quick burst to the rim in addition to being a 3-point shooter, just high level, skill level. And then Charnowski, that can play above the rim and plays with a lot of energy. And so those 3 guys combined and their differences, I would look for all 3 of those guys to have significant seasons next year, especially Orm and Charnowski, who both went through some injury and illness this year. I think if they're able to take what they learned this year and the improvements they made and apply that to a full season, I would think both would have a pretty extraordinary coming out party next year.
Does Charnowski have a swimming background, or does he just have the ability to bench press a house? Because I don't know that I've seen shoulders on an 18, 19-year-old kid like that before.
He actually does have a swimming background. I think he was a pretty elite junior swimmer. His mom was a swimmer.
Makes sense.
And so, yeah, you're right. He looks like $1 million. And he's still growing. He's a young guy. All 3 of those guys are young, honestly. I mean, Brigham Rogers just finished his sophomore season. He hasn't even turned 20 yet. And so, so there's still a lot of potential there for them. They're 3 hard workers. They're great teammates. And so I'm excited about what they bring to the table.
Your playing career ended. You spent 16 years with Rick Byrd. What's the biggest lesson that you still use today that from your time with Coach Byrd?
Yeah, the consistency for Coach is what I've learned the most. And another way to say it is he's totally uncompromising in what he believes and what he wants and how he wants to go about doing it. He would far rather walk away from the game than compromise his beliefs or the way that he wants to run the program. And seeing that lived out every day was a great lesson for a young coach. I mean, he's the only guy I ever worked for, so naturally a lot of my philosophy and just how I run the program on a daily basis is going to be influenced by him. But that's the one thing that I try to hold on to as much as anything else is let's remember who we are and how we got here and what's made us good. And let's even though we have to change with the time, so to speak, let's always stay true to what makes Belmont Belmont.
But you held off the sweater vest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank goodness we don't even have to wear those coats and ties anymore. So, but yeah, the sweater vest, that's all him. Yeah, I haven't seen him in a sweater vest in a good while. I don't know if that was. I know how that all happened, how it all got started, but
how did it happen?
Yeah, he was trying to figure out how he could look nice without wearing a coat. Like what can I do to dress it up just a notch? But I don't want to wear a coat and tie, and I don't want to be hot. I want to have some, that kind of deal. So he settled in on the sweater vest, and then it just kind of became his trademark. He's not one for attention. He didn't do it because he wanted people to recognize him, but he just he felt like that was a good middle ground for not being casual and not being dressed up.
Getting ready for your 15th season as a head coach, how have you changed the most since day one?
Yeah, I didn't realize it'd been that long. I definitely have a much better perspective for things that are important. I think as a young coach, and when you're going about it for your first time, I'm still making a lot of mistakes, but it's not because I'm throwing darts hoping something will stick. I also think that my experiences at Stetson for 2 years and taking over that program, my experiences at Lipscomb for 6 years, taking over that program, and even coming back to Belmont, it was, I still walked into a program where, those guys, when I came to Belmont, those players in the locker room saw me as the Lipscomb coach. They didn't see me as the Belmont graduate or the guy that had spent 20 years here at Belmont prior to coming back, So I think just learning how to manage new staffs and new players and, new agendas has really helped me develop over the course of time. I think by and large, I'm probably still the same guy, but the coaching today is a lot more relational than it ever has been. Getting out of the office and being on the floor with players is more important than it ever has been. The X's and O's are always a part of it, but I spend a lot less time thinking about that part of the game than I do just managing the team and players and relationships and personalities.
If you could get back in a time machine and go talk to that guy in 2011 at Stetson, what is the one piece of advice that he didn't know back then that would maybe help the coaching journey go a little smoother?
Yeah, I mean, that guy that's in that picture right there, he, again, very naturally, you just thought he had all the answers, and if you guys would just do what I tell you to do, then we're all going to live happily ever after. And I think there's you got to have some confidence and belief in what you're doing, but it's not quite that simple, and I learned that, especially for those Stetson teams that I first inherited, there's a significant level of trust that has to be there, from player to coach and coach to player, for you to accomplish anything that's worthwhile. And it just took me too long to figure that out. I think we made great progress while we were at Stetson. When we left there, it was better than it had been in a long time. But I learned a lot as a coach. The difference in how I handled the transition to Stetson compared to how I handled the transition to Lipscomb, which still needed a lot of improvement, was significantly different.
How's scheduling going, especially maybe in the MTE world now, where it feels like, that was really the opportunity for schools at our level to get some neutral court opportunities, and the big boys are now, whether they're going in these NIL events or just kind of pulling out. What sort of challenge has that been for you, trying to put together, in your mind, the best non-conference schedule you can have, whether that's for at-large reasons or just to get you prepared for a conference run?
It's more difficult than ever before. Some of that is self-induced. Like Belmont has not had a tradition of buying home games. So what we end up having to do is find a lot of home and homes. And by and large, those opponents these days are going to be, probably, if being transparent, they're going to be a little higher quality than what I would want on a consistent basis. We're just, the Power Fours aren't going to play home and homes with us virtually ever. And if you're looking at teams that are 200 to 350 in the net rankings, they would rather not play home and home games either, because they can go get bought and get paid for playing people at our level. So we end up playing a lot of like-minded opponents, which is great. But it makes the year extraordinarily difficult when you consider there's 20 Valley games, and then a non-conference strength of schedule where you're playing the UC Irvines and Middle Tennessees and Charleston this year and Richmond and some of those opponents, it ends up being quite a grind. It makes it difficult.
Well, last question. I think you get, I don't know, 10, maybe 15 minutes in the off season to relax. What are our hobbies? Do we golf? We fish? We just find a porch and take a nap? What do we do?
Yeah, I actually do like to play golf. I play with Coach Bird. Probably 90% of my rounds are with him. And so I will squeeze in as much of that as I can. Our players go home this week after exams, and from April to kind of June, I'll play not a lot, but pretty regularly, and then try to survive the summer with some golf. But that's really my hobby. I spend a lot of time walking with my wife just around the neighborhood streets, and just enjoying time doing that. But that's I'm pretty low key. Don't travel a whole lot unless I'm going to see a Cubs game. That's about all I'm going to do in the summer.
It's a good time to reintroduce yourself to your spouse after the grind of the season. One last question to let you go. Ben Shepherd, just what's that do for Belmont to see a young man that had such a great career for you, but to get drafted and be on the playoff stage and you get Belmont set on national TV a little more frequently now?
Yeah, obviously we're all very proud of Ben and excited about where he is and what his future is. I mean, I think he's a great person and a real low key personality. I mean, he's just a happy guy that he's living the dream right now in the NBA, but in a lot of ways you would never know it. I mean, he's exactly the same person that we knew while he played here. Very humble, and will make anybody that's around him better, whether that's friends and teammates or his actual teammates that he's playing with, and that's the greatest quality. So Ben combined with Dylan Windler, they're two great stories for us. They're both 4-year Belmont players, both first round draft picks, both the 26th pick in the draft. So to get Dylan for 4 years and turn right around and for Ben to do the same exact thing, where both of them averaged 2 points as freshmen and 10 points as sophomores, and just kind of incrementally get better to where they played in the NBA. Those are great success stories, and we're happy for that.
Casey Alexander, head coach of the Belmont Bruins. Enjoy your golf, enjoy your walks, and thanks for the time this morning, and hopefully we can talk soon.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. There is Coach Alexander. As again, just a relief. The roster is set, and he can go into spring now with now you got to start recruiting and get ready for getting the next year's class, but at least the 25-26 roster up here set for the time being. All right, that does it this morning for today's edition of Morning in the Valley. Again, thanks for checking us out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 a.m. wherever you are watching us. If you can do us a solid, head on over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel there. We've got clips from our interviews and entire shows if you want to watch those again, but you can do that over at YouTube. Again, just search for Morning in the Valley. Enjoy your Monday, everybody. We'll be back here Wednesday morning at 9. Have a great rest of your day.